go as floral as Bowmore.
Yeah.
I guess we should have done that earlier, eh?
Yeah,
Whoops.
sorry everybody, we
Yeah,
forgot to hit
yeah,
record. If you're
yeah. We're
watching this
gonna
on YouTube,
yeah. If you don't mind, we're just gonna go back 5 minutes now and just
yeah,
spiel through everything
we're
we
gonna
said.
repeat everything we've said. Evan, I suppose, sorry to interrupt. For a quick
No
catch
worries.
up, we're on Machir Bay. We were talking about how even though this is maybe a little bigger than the 100% Islay, we thought this was a good starting malt. And just talking about, you were sort of finishing off, even though it's a peated malt, it's quite clean.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
got a very delicate, elegant profile for a heavily peated malt. And I think that was all by design. There was by design
Mhm.
because unlike all the other distilleries, when Anthony started Kilchoman, he knew he'd have to be able to bottle the whiskey young to keep the cash flow going. Kilchoman was, I believe, the first of the Jim Swan distilleries. And this is an element of that Jim Swan spirit style, which is long fermentation, uh, with often with brewers and distillers yeast. Not all of them follow that, but a slow distillation and a very precise cut so that you would have a clean enough spirit that with a few years in an oak barrel, it would taste drinkable.
Yeah. Yeah. For us older people, it's kind of like trying to decipher where millennials and Gen Z starts, I guess, in some ways. But
Mhm.
I almost think of uh, Kilchoman as a precursor to the craft boom distillery.
Mhm.
In the same way that Erin is, like both of them kind of had to have young whiskey to put out as soon as possible to
Mhm.
start churning money through. They didn't have the benefit of like making a vodka or a gin to make
Yeah.
money in the meantime, or be able to count on like a lot of tourism right off the hop
Yeah.
either. The tourism really boomed after or post Kilchoman building
Yeah.
in the manner that it has now, where they didn't plan it with a restaurant on site or anything like that, like all the new
Mhm.
distilleries do now. But it does have that sort of like fatty, like rich, but very accessible style of peated whiskey that you're talking about.
Well, uh, Evan, I'm glad you brought that up because it did get me on something I was thinking about today, and it's that, you what is it? Aaron this year will turn 30.
Yeah.
So 1995 is when they started. Both Kilchoman and Daftmill started in 2005, so they're both turning 20 this year. And when all of those distilleries started, they were fairly unique. Like Aaron was the
Mhm.
first new startup since the 1980s. Uh, Daftmill and Kilchoman were only the second and third. And it wasn't until I believe 2012 with Wolfburn and a couple of others, maybe Kingsbarns, that you started seeing this resurgence in new distilleries opening. And since then, there's been over 50. And what's funny is that all of them saw this opportunity for the market to grow. And if any of them, I think, had a long chat with the owners of Kilholman or Aaron, they might have been a little more cautious in their
Yep.
investment and in their business plan because Aaron took until I think the whiskey was 14 years old before it broke even. Like that was the first year that they actually turned a profit, 14 years in. Kilholman, Anthony's been pretty open about this over the years. He's had to dilute his stake multiple times to keep cash flow coming in, to keep the business going because it's not easy to do. Even when you're selling, as both Aaron and Kilholman did, 3 to 5 year old whiskeys for a number of years just to keep your cash flow going. And what's crazy is you have 50 other people that have done this and are all thinking they can do the same when there was only three. All of them were struggling to do it with the exception of Daphne, I guess, because they weren't really playing that same game. But both Kilholman and Aaron, now at 20 and 30 years of age, really struggled for a long time.
Yep. And they were sort of the pioneers. They were the precursors to where we are now for every other craft distillery, not in Scotland, but in the world. In a lot of cases, they presaged the boom that
Mhm.
we hit.
And they did so at a time when equipment was cheap. relatively speaking. Casks were much cheaper because the demand hadn't taken off yet. I mean, there's just so many layers to this that are kind of
Yeah.
interesting when you start to think about it. But anyway, shall we move on to the next whiskey here?
Yeah.
Oh, all of this was a long windup to answering Jeff's question about the rum distillery. Um, I could be wrong, but I think that's on ice right now. And I think it's on ice because the costs started to escalate very quickly. And I think they looked at the example of Waterford and Renegade.
Yeah.
So
That's got
I
to be
could
it.
be proven wrong on that, but I think they just quietly hit pause. And if I'm being honest, I don't think we're going to see much on that in the next couple of years. I mean, in some ways, it might have been a good opportunity to buy Renegade, but I guess somebody else already scooped in and did that.
Hmm.
All right, so we're on to the 13-year, Evan. That's the next one here.
Yep.
Limited edition. So, fun little side note here. If you didn't get a bottle of this when it first came out, I believe, unless they're already there, I believe we're getting six tomorrow. So first six people that want one, you can put it online. These are available. This is one of their official 20th anniversary releases, bottled 50% from a mixture of bourbon, uh, octave casks. So what are those? They're the 60-liter casks, or is it 80-liter?
Yeah.
80.
60 or 80. Yep.
I think it's 80.
Yeah. That sounds about right.
And then Calvados cast. So kind of an interesting mix here. Uh, I think we tried this. Didn't we try this? Did we have this in a tasting in store? Yeah, with James Wills when he was in town a couple
Yep.
months back.
Yeah. I totally
And
missed it. So this is my first time trying it.
I don't
Did you
think I
want me
stuck
to,
around for that one.
yeah. Did you want me to put this up for pre-order just for the
No,
people
we'll
here?
just let the people who are on the tasting tonight get first crack, and if they don't take them, they'll be on
Yeah.
there tomorrow. But we'll leave it saying sold out so that it discourages others who aren't
Sounds good.
currently taking part in tonight's tasting. And I mean, in theory,
So,
half of you could have one, but I doubt half of you are going to jump on this. Even though it's got a
yeah.
lovely nose, it's very fresh, loads of orchard fruit there. I mean, the Calvados is probably kicking up that apple note a little bit.
Yeah. A little
Um,
bit ashier on the nose too for me.
well, surprisingly for me, I mean, when I go back to the Machir Bay, I'm getting, these vegetal, ashy peat notes.
Mhm.
Um, I'm not getting much on this yet. I'm getting barley, I'm getting sugars, I'm getting fruit. I know
Yeah.
the peat's there, but for my nose right now, I'm not picking it up.
Yeah. It's got just for me, it's got a bit of like a doused campfire, and then like some beech wood
Mhm.
on the beach there.
It had a little bit of a French farmhouse kick on the nose too, like a farmhouse ale. The palate, it's
Mhm.
malty, toasty, sweet. There's a really nice spice element here. I'm assuming those Calvados casks are a type of French oak. So in addition to you know, being seasoned with apple brandy, you're also getting a nice French oak kick in there as well.
Yeah, nice bit of fruit coming through on there, probably apples, but to me it's leaning more towards lychee.
Yeah. Aaron Andrew Brandon is loving this one, but Jeff is not, according to the chat. This is not Kilchoman.
Wow, strong words.
I need to sit with that one a little longer.
I feel like it's going to develop a bit more than the Machir Bay will in the glass, but we'll see.
Still got a little bit of that hot tub note in there, like that ozone. Maybe more
Mhm.
like a fancy spa hot tub as opposed to, you know, your run-of-the-mill hockey tournament kids hotel with a spa or hot tub.
That's right.
Spa. And yeah, really appley. But I mean, I guess I can see what Jeff's getting at. Like the citrus isn't quite as bright. The smoke's not quite as firm.
Yeah, and cousin says menthol on the finish. It does have that cooling note for me
Yeah,
as well.
it, it's starting to creep in there too, along
Hmm.
with some really dark spice, like moving into like clove and fennel.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, it's that the
interesting.
cloves I get for sure.
It's an interesting whiskey. I mean, blind. I think maybe this is again building on Jeff's point. I think I'd have a hard time guessing this was Kilchoman, but I mean, I'm not sure I could tell what it was as far as an Islay
Yeah.
whiskey goes. You know what it reminds me of, and I don't know if it was with you, Evan, or with Sean, was talking about how Cornog, French single malt,
Hmm.
really
Hmm.
reminds me of Kilchoman in terms of a profile. And I think if I were to guess blind, I might have thrown out that this was Cornog.
Yeah, I could kind of see that. I haven't had corn dog in a couple of years, and it was always leaned a bit oilier than Kilhoman goes, but it does have a bit more of that funk that corn dog I recall having,
Mhm.
which
Well,
is I believe that's owned by Pernod Ricard now.
Cornog is.
Yeah, the Glen Armour distillery or whatever.
Yeah, interesting. I wonder how much longer Kraftwerks will be importing it.
Hmm.
Interesting times. Well, um, yeah, I think I like it. I think I'm gonna have to need to go through the whole range before I can decide how much I like it. But I
Yeah,
am especially keen to try the next one,
yeah,
which is the 100% Isla. This has always been my favorite style of Kilholman,
same.
partly because sorry, Evan, were you just about to say same?
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say partly because it's a lower phenol level, but it's also that malted barley, and it's barley that they grow on Islay around the distillery. I mean, in some ways, there's very little that Kilholman 100% Islay have in common profile wise because it's just such a different animal.
Mhm.
I think because they're using Islay grown barley on these floor maltings, you just get this incredibly rich um, and inconsistent profile. I mean,
Yeah,
as you do with a lot of other floor malted whiskeys, but because they're using Islay barley, it's even a step above that. And I mean, this has that aroma. Like Evan, I know you've been to Kilhoman with me, of like
yeah,
walking into the malting floor and the malts germinating, and it smells kind of like a mixture of granola and yogurt.
yeah, yeah, and just like these damp sort of vegetal notes meandering through.
Mhm.
Yeah, the inconsistency is a good call, and it's I honestly haven't had enough like concurrent 100% Isla bottlings to really pick up on it, but it should come out kind of like everybody chases after local barley, and 100% Isla editions tend to have their following in a smaller manner, but
Yeah.
it would have those variations in a similar fashion.
In in some ways, it should almost have, I think, even more of a cult following
Yes,
because, I mean, the local barleys that Springbank does, they're great, but they're from different farms. The farm
yeah,
tends to rotate a little bit. I mean, this is literally grown in the fields around the distillery.
this is Rockside Farm. Yep.
Yeah, and they struggle. If the barnacle geese don't get it, the weather might not cooperate. There's been years where they have very little crop. Uh, so it's a tough whiskey to make. This particular batch is where we got it here, 2013 and 2014 harvests, matured in selected bourbon and Oloroso sherry casks for a minimum of 9 years. I mean, this whiskey must have been close to a decade old at the time it was bottled,
Mhm.
which is pretty cool.
There's uh there's a really nice along with a bit of that vegetal note from here, like going into like a fruit salad, just like where it's just the honeydew and the cantaloupe that nobody wanted to eat
Yeah.
that's left, the chaff of the fruit salad.
Mhm. It is very fruity. There's some nice like coconut cupcake icing notes on here too. Serge was saying slightly peated version of Compass Box Orchard House, which is an interesting comparison. It's
Good
not
call.
quite as lush, but I can see where he's going with that. It's that clean American oak, and those like driven citrus fruit and orchard fruit notes.
Yep. Even just a touch of waxiness
Oh
in
yeah.
behind that peat and coastal note.
Well, let's give it a taste.
Yep. 100% Islay always, especially when it hits bourbon, always seems to go like it amps up the creaminess in a lot of cases too, versus the sourced barley and sourced malt they use.
That's juicy, sweet, really creamy. That nice waxy tone is in there. More vanilla, shredded coconut. I mean, the smoke is faint. Like this is
Yeah.
to me is coming across as a very faintly peated batch of 100% Isla, but I like it. It's very, very drinkable.
Yeah, very complex.
I think I would say this is even starting to stray into those more exotic tropical tones. Uh, for me, I would really love I would love to see 20-year-old refill bourbon
Mhm.
100% Isla
Yeah.
because I just have this idea that it's going to be just this glorious tropical waxy delicately smoked whiskey. It could be the other new Brora to compete with Ben Romick.
Yep. With I did a few drops of water just for kicks since it's at 50 just to see what would happen. And it gets almost a bit of this like Elmer's glue slash like making paper mache or putting it over the balloon note.
Now, I
Pasty.
I might be tempting bingo card territory here, Evan, but I was going to make a joke about did it open it up,
Yeah.
which I actually don't know. I know I've been joking that I might actually look at the bingo card to see if we can actually complete it, but I haven't.
Yep.
Um, was that a
Well,
square on?
this one has a new addition where I changed a few of the squares. I think the open it up one is still there, so
Oh,
um, you
lovely.
might be able to blot that one out.
Yeah, I think we're gonna let people dab that one.
Hmm.
That was a bit of a freebie. I threw that one out there for fun.
That's right.
Will saying, or sorry, yeah, Will had a comment here about Kilchoman being one of the few grain to glass distilleries. In Scotland, I think it's the only distillery. I mean, I know Balvenie in theory, and even Macallan in theory can grow barley on their estates. Balvenie does do some maltings, but I mean, it's never been used very much. Like it's really there more for the tourists. But I'm trying to think right now of any other distillery. I know, Daft Mill does, but then the barley's leaving to be malted elsewhere. So it's a bit of an interesting one. There might be one other of the new distilleries that is going to be approximating that, but I don't think anyone else is quite
Yeah.
here yet.
Yeah. Lockley does its own barley, but again, I don't think it has its own floor maltings.
It doesn't have a maltings. I mean,
Yeah.
even Bruichladdich, you could talk about the farms around the distillery, but all the barley has to be trucked away to like Inverness to
Yeah.
be malted and then is trucked back.
Hmm.
So I do think it is the only true one. And I mean, if Springbank had a farm around it, which you can't because it's in the middle of a town, it could meet that criteria. But anyway, I mean, those ones are all good, but again, I'm pretty confident that Inchdarney, I don't know. I've never been to. Daft Mill definitely doesn't have its own maltings floor, though I think that Patrick Francis has been talking about doing that. Avon Jarek, I went out there like years and years ago. I think they only had like 3 or 4 year old whiskey at the time I went out there. They might, but I don't remember. Um, so Balvenie could do it, but I don't think they've really, I don't even think they've marketed that, at least not recently.
Well, do they have their own farms?
Yeah, they do. There's
Hmm.
farms. They have their own Balvenie estate farm. And they do have their own bottling facilities there, but
Yeah.
I don't think they can malt. Like in fact, other than the floor maltings. And I just don't think they do anything with it. They're too busy
Hmm.
charging 10 grand for 30-year-old whiskey, I think, to
Yeah.
focus on. I know that's a bit of a dig, but
Yeah. Well, their loss, obviously.
mhm. Well,
Yeah, this 100% Isle is fantastic.
it's hard to beat. Um, and I was going to say, like, we've still got that in stock, which is somewhat shocking.
Yep.
Um, but anyway, shall we move on to the Loch Gorm 2025?
Hmm. Now, this will be
10
my first
old.
time having a Loch Gorm in quite a while. There's a lot in this lineup that I haven't tasted up till now.
Well, and I think in a lot of years, like we would get 2 cases of Loch Gorm 30, and during those crazy years, those would not last very long.
Mm.
Um, I think we're getting slightly larger allocations now. Um, they, are lasting a little longer because maybe the craziness of recent years has passed us by. But yeah, I don't even think we've bothered putting this into tasting for years, simply because we just didn't have enough of it.
Yep.
Um, so this is a 20th anniversary year bottling, although it's not an official 20th anniversary release, but why not? 46% multi-vintage bottling, marriage of 23 Oloroso sherry casks, 20 of them fresh, sourced from Bodega Jose Miguel Martin. So there we go. That's interesting. Uh, what's been interesting with the Loch Gorm, Evan, for the last 4 or 5 years, the Sanaig has often been darker, even though
Yeah.
the Sanaig is a mix of bourbon and sherry, and Loch Gorm has been, I think initially it was finished in sherry, but for I would say the last 4 or 5 years, it's been sherry matured as opposed to
Yeah.
sherry finished.
Yeah. There's
Um,
been a very, very marked change in the color of Sanaig uh, since its introduction to recent bottlings.
and it's still darker, but I mean, this has got quite a dark nose to it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's got some like smoky coffee grounds and even into like a Roche beer, Roush beer,
Mhm. Some nice chocolate tones, fudgy, dried dark fruits.
a little bit of Nutella.
Oh, Nutella's a good note. The world needs more smoked beer. Yeah, it's got like a smoked fish, like a smoked kippers note on there too. It's quite peat forward. I mean, I'm looking for that chocolate, the dried dark fruit, the spices, and I can tell they're there, but it's really this ashy peat that's the most dominant note on here for me. A little bit of
Mhm.
tobacco too.
Yeah, almost goes into like a cherrywood sort of tobacco note for it. Doesn't have that cooling note that Cam picked up on the 13 there. Touch of pepperiness without being over the top.
Oh no, but that's a pretty lovely palate. I mean, it's thick, dark, syrupy, loads of chocolate. I mean, it's almost too sherry for me in the sense that like you don't really get a ton of the peat. The peat is really quite muted in there.
Hmm. Yeah, it's kind of a muted dram in general. I think the sherry kind of closes everything up a little bit. It's still
But
expressive, but just not as expressive as the rest of the Kilchoman bottlings we've had so far.
but that's really lovely sherry.
Hmm. Yeah, some smoky barbecue notes on there.
Hmm. Spicy, nutty. I like Will's note, greasy fries drizzled with maple syrup.
Yeah, just a touch of like barbecue salmon skin on
Hmm.
there for me as well.
That's a good tasting note too. It's muddy and earthy, and it's got this nice mushroomy mustiness to it too.
Mhm.
Lots going on there. I think for me it's a little bit like Ardbeg Ugadale in the sense that like I like it, but I'm always missing something because I think the sherry is just such a dominant profile that it really hides the smoke. All that being said, I mean, there is an element of people out there that really love that peach sherry mix profile, and this is, if you like that style, like this has got to be up your alley.
Yeah, that's a cool dram. I'm gonna try that with water just for kicks. Wonder if it's going to go disjointed though.
Hmm.
A little bit more of a clove note coming through with the water.
I'm towing the road as a purist tonight, Evan, because I'm chasing my whiskey with San Pellegrino, so I'm not putting it in. I was gonna say though, I thought the San Pellegrino made a great chaser for that 13-year-old. It really
Makes
brought out
sense.
those like orchard appley notes in it.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
it's totally a dram that John Glazer would have made a cocktail out of.
Likely, yeah. And that would be true to fashion, making a cocktail out of something that was, too expensive, but
Yeah.
did it
Put it in
anyway.
a large bowl wine glass with a couple ice cubes.
Exactly. All right. Well,
Mm.
I'm enjoying that. Let's go on to the
Yeah.
one that I'm the most nervous about in the lineup because, port casks. So where are we here?
So this is just bottled at 46, if I remember correctly, too. It doesn't get the 50 bump that some of these
No,
do. Or no,
no,
sorry,
it's
it is at
50.
50.
It
Yeah,
is
pardon
50.
me.
So let me put it up on screen.
There's like a hickory note on the nose for me right now on it.
Hmm. Okay. So port cask matured for 6 years, full term maturation, ruby port hogsheads from two contrasting ages, the youngest of which was 6 years of age. So I think when they're saying contrasting ages, one of these must have been quite a bit older.
Hmm.
Otherwise, I'm not sure they would have made that comparison. It's interesting on the nose in that I know it's musty. There's also something that reminds me of Blair Athol in here. There's like this irony, bloody kind of note to it.
Yeah, I can kind of see where you're going. It does have a bit of that bloody note, almost going into like blue rare steak territory
A
with
little
a bit of
chocolatey.
peppercorn.
Yeah, I'm not sure what to make of the nose on that.
Interesting palate as well. I wonder if they added that younger whiskey just because it was getting so tired on some of those older casks.
Hmm. The palate's a little more interesting than the nose. It's a little more approachable. I mean, it's interesting. It's very chocolatey. There's some nice grapey tones.
Hmm.
Um, but I don't know. It's like it's missing something. It's like missing a top note.
Yeah, it's got a touch of going back to the nose now, a bit of teriyaki beef jerky.
Hmm. So I know I've talked about this with our berries blended malts, 1999, which I don't think I said this in my tasting notes on our website, but I definitely did in the video I did for YouTube. Reminds me of drinking a 1 liter jug of chocolate milk late at night after playing hockey when I'm like tired, thirsty, famished, hungry, and it's like hitting all the corners of my mouth at once with like salt, fat, chocolate, sugar. Uh, this is like the low fat stevia equivalent of that. Is that a damning with
That,
faint praise?
I was just gonna say that's or it's your diagram, I guess, whenever you
Yeah,
need
I
it.
mean that this it would be like I don't know, some kind of diet version of full fat sugary chocolate milk.
Yeah. It's what the YouTube dieters are like raving about right now.
Hmm.
This is the one trick the doctors don't want you to try.
Loads of berry fruits. So yeah, I can see the
Yep.
blueberries, Saskatoons, those acai berries covered in dark
Yeah.
chocolate. The
The
palate,
berry notes come out more with water in a nice manner.
the palate I think is a real improvement. It does grow on me. I don't dislike it. I know again that seems somewhat damning with faint praise, but anyone who's been on one of these tastings knows I'm generally anxious whenever we're talking port casks because I find they just don't work out very well. The industry seems to be getting better with them, but yeah, it's not often a win for me.
I'm curious to go around the horn and come back to this one. Right now, my feeling is, and it is kind of like certain drams that we have in society tastings, where you have that one dram that if you take it in a vacuum, where there's nothing else, like, oh yeah, this is really nice. But in a lineup like this, it just doesn't jump out the same way for me.
Yeah. Okay, let's go on to the batch strength.
And this is now one of the trio that's a regular bottling now with the Sanaig and the Machir Bay, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, in theory, 100% Islay was supposed to be
Yeah,
a regular bottling too, but they realized they could just never, along with even with Loch Gorm, they could never um,
have enough.
keep enough of it in stock globally. But yeah, this is part of the core range. I believe they went with the batch strength concept rather than cask strength because it would mean that they could always bottle it at 57%. And rather than adding casks to achieve the alcohol level, they could try to have a consistent flavor profile instead. So, uh, mix of STR, sherry, and bourbon casks, 57%.
Nice nose.
Yeah, it does have a nice nose.
It's a bit more citrusy than the last few, maybe going back to the citrusy notes on a bit of the Machir Bay. Even more citrusy than that for me.
Yeah, it's kind of somewhere in between Machir Bay and I think the Loch Gorm sort of nose wise. It's not quite as vegetal and raw as the Machir Bay.
If
And
you take away the peat, it almost has like you're nosing a gin and tonic, like with a lime squeezed in for me. A little bit herbaceous, but not over the top. Even has a bit of that quinine note, and then like a lime tree somewhere in the background.
Mhm.
Mm.
I mean, it's good. Uh,
Mm.
I think the problem is that it's just, I compare this to the 13, the 100% Isla or the Loch Gorm, and it's just not as exciting.
Should have maybe had it earlier in the lineup.
Mhm. Lots of hickory, nice like sweets, sorry, like baking spices, kind of like real firm baking spices in there too. Some brown sugar. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just it I know it's good, it's just not getting me exciting.
I hate to say this, and I hope I'm wrong, but I don't get it on, well, actually, I get it on the nose a bit now too, but palate wise, I think there's a touch of cork taint to this dram
Mm.
from this specific bottle. There's just a touch of wet cardboard and mustiness
Oh
that I get
yeah.
off corked wine.
Evan, you might be right.
It's not completely dead. Like there's still a lot of flavor to it, but there's something there that shouldn't be there to it, I think.
Okay. So a little TCA.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think that might be what's going on, and I think that might be why it's not quite as lively as it should be.
that's fair.
Yeah, I was just getting like this strange musty note, but not now that you
Not the
mentioned it,
musty note that's good.
no. All right. Well, the good news is the next one has a much more promising nose to it. So I'll
Sounds
pop
good.
her up on screen.
Yeah,
Oh,
this one I was
this is
excited
good.
about. Sanaig Cask Strength.
Yeah. Which sadly we're out of. We will get it again. This has been quite popular since it came out. I'm sure we'll see more of this again by the fall.
There's just nosing it, there's a touch more of that Elmer's glue note I was getting in a prior Kilchoman. But there's a lot of like blackberries with yogurt, yeah, on this one as well for me. Still a lot of dryer sheets in there as well.
It's quite a bit softer sherry profile, even though it's more got a much darker color. Predominantly matured in Oloroso sherry casks, um, and then just bottled at natural cask strength. Uh, Interesting. You know,
Touch of soapiness in there as well, like Thrills gum, chewing gum.
the thrills is a good note. Evan, I'm going to throw this out there because you've used this before, but this might be the first time I've picked it up. There's also a little bit of kibble on the nose too.
Yeah, yeah, I could see that. Like dry dog food.
Yeah, but greasy. It's like a
Hmm.
greasy dry dog food. The palate is quite thick, rich, nutty. There's some nice leather and tobacco tones in there. Christmas cake, dark baker's chocolate. I mean, very sherry.
Carrot cake.
Oh,
Carrot cake even on the palate, like a bit of that sort of ginger nutmeg carrot shavings in there.
I can see that on the finish especially, but it's that carrot cake donut, those ones that they used to do in
Ooh,
jelly. So like deep
just
fried carrot cake.
the way any carrot cake should be.
Mm.
It's a cool dram. It does have this sort of like closed off hint to it, like the Loch Gorm does, probably because of the sherry.
Hmm.
Um, I like the strength of it though. Like it's still super approachable at that 57.8 or whatever it is.
Yeah, very approachable. I mean, it's interesting. I mean, it's quite different from the Loch Gorm. Um, but it's funny that I mean, and I know we're talking cask strength here, so there's a bit more concentration. But it's just funny that this is, it's still funny that this is darker when they're using a
Hmm.
bit of like ex-bourbon whiskeys blended in with the sherry. It's just a little odd. Very drinkable though. I like it.
Texture wise, there's a little bit of like a chewable vitamin C tablet in there where it's like drying, but like just a touch of like sourness to it at the same time.
Uh, I don't know if that's a suggestion or something already on the bingo square, Evan, but
That is not on there. I will try and keep that in mind.
yeah. All right. One of the things I thought it would be fun to do, we don't do this often, and I usually complain that I can't get it to work, but I got some photos. This is actually from Evan and my trip to
Hmm.
Islay, which would have been what, 2022?
No, October of 2019.
2019.
Yeah, this is
Oh, good Lord.
pre-COVID. So this is just like they had done the expansion, so they had twinned the stills and the distillation equipment. And if I remember correctly, it wasn't the new side wasn't quite up and running yet,
So
but
this
I
is
could
the
be
old
wrong.
malting floor. This is the outside of the new malting floor. So this is the new maltings, which I think they've actually expanded this. When
Hmm.
Sean and I were there, they'd expanded it. There's the inside, not a very big malting floor. This is one of the bottlenecks for their production for sure. And there you can see the woman going around. She's scooping up the barley. They're clearly getting it off the floor and getting it ready to go into the kiln. And this will be the steep tank. So when they start it out, the barley will go into the steep tank. The steep tank is then filled with water. Generally, the water goes on and off twice for about 12 hours at a time. Barley likes to breathe. You don't want to drown it. It'll absorb, I believe, almost 100% of its weight in water and then
Hmm.
gets spread out along the floor with what's called a malt chariot. That's this little bucket on wheels here. Fun little contraption. Uh, there's the 100% Islay on the 100% Islay, or on the, the malting floor, the ninth edition of 100% Islay. So that gives us a frame of reference for how long ago this was. That's inside, I believe, the kiln. So this is the barley going into the kiln to get dried. And this is the barley just before it goes in. The little root on it's called a chit. Um, and there's a little right up there on the 2019 barley crop. So there you go, Evan. It was 2019. There's some of the peat. There's the entrance to the kiln. Uh, Kilchoman, interestingly, their old kiln had a fire. Um, and required quite a bit of work. This is actually now a view of the distillery, and you can see the expansion here where they expanded the distillery. This is the old distillery here, and this is the new distillery. And both of these pipes here are connected to the washback, or sorry, the mash tun, where they will steep the wort out of the malt, and then that's on the inside. So there's your mash tun, and then this is the new side. So you have, and I think to your point, they were just about to turn it on, but they hadn't quite turned it on yet. The mill, oh, I'm not sure what happened there. That just jumped ahead a ton. But you know what? Why don't I close some of that out and then we'll go back. We'll go back in a minute's time. Should we
Yeah,
do
so I was just to add on to that, I was watching a YouTube video from whiskey.com from someone that recently toured there from that site, and they had talked about, and I wasn't aware of this, that with the twinning of the stills, and they're planning on adding another set from what Andrew said now, but the way the stills are currently set up, the new side that just opened in 2019 or later in 2020, that is exclusively used for the 100% Islay portion. So they actually section everything off and use
Hmm.
the old stills for their sourced peat spec of 50 ppm, and then do their farm to glass out of one set of stills, one set of mash tuns and fermenters as well.
Mhm. Um, should we do our speed round, Evan?
Yeah.
All right, back to the Machir Bay, which
Should
is
we put up
actually,
the poll while we're doing this, or
no, I think we'll go through the speed round, then we'll do the poll.
sounds
Um,
good?
I think the nose is softened quite a bit on this.
Yeah, it does have a
Uh,
bit of just like a hint of lemon pledge in the background right now for me.
if you're not watching the game, don't. It's not gotten any better.
Mm.
Um, Honeyed, malty. There's some nice licorice tones in there too.
Mhm.
Um, Clean smoke, a little bit of citrus too. I mean, it's classic, basic, but it's very well done.
There's just and I get this on a lot of our single casts that we get. There's just a touch of like olive brine on the palate right now too.
Mhm. All right. What about the 13-year-old? Has that changed much in the glass? Oh man,
It's
that
got a bit
palette. Go
more
ahead.
almond paste and marzipan on the
It,
palate for me, but the cantaloupe and honeydew note is still there.
I mean, I think if you were to have like an extra strength apple flavored hulls, I think that's what you would get on the palate. Um, the fruit has kind of gotten more concentrated and like stewed at the same time, and then that menthol note that someone was mentioning before has kind of crept in there now too.
Mhm.
Tastes a little like medicine.
The best kind of medicine. But yeah, I see what you're getting at, where it's got that medicinal quality, and they've tried to put something over top just to make it like palatable.
Hmm. Okay, 100% Islay.
So soft.
Yeah. It really does smell like going into the malting floor. Like the barley is just
Yeah.
so prominent on there.
And
Yogurt
that
note,
just a little bit of passion fruit now coming through on this one.
very grassy, very malty, lots of nice fruit. Still has this
Mm.
nice coconut icing sugar note.
Abs-
Yeah, Cam's got the donuts there, which I think is a good one too.
Yeah.
That's a lovely whiskey. I really truly can't wait to see like 20-year-old 100% Islay. Like I can't wait to
Yeah.
try that.
Did they put anything in refill casks though? It was
Well, but
probably
even if
all
they
first fill
didn't,
bourbon.
I
Yeah.
really want to try some super
Same.
100% Islay.
That it's just a like a happy place dram. Uh, for me, like I just love that style. It reminds me of my favorite single casks that we've had from Kilchoman, which tend to be the 100% Islas.
What about that Loch Gorm?
It's a bit more sherry coming out like just straight on sherry, almost into like a cream sherry coming out on the nose.
Hmm.
Smoke is there, but it's pretty integrated.
Very drinkable, very chocolatey, very dark.
Yeah.
I mean, what's interesting, I think if we were to have this and the Sanaig, I'm kind of switching back and forth a little bit on these. I know I'm jumping ahead,
Mm.
but the Sanaig's got
Well,
like a fried bologna note to it now.
it does have like a bit more like just a touch of plasticky funk coming through on the Sanaig as well, maybe because of the strength. Not in a bad way though.
Oh man, it's all fried bologna now. Slightly
I
burnt.
get what you're saying. I know what I'm having for breakfast.
Man, they're so
So what
dark,
do
but
you
they're so,
prefer, the Loch
so
Gorm or
different.
the Sanaig?
I think I'm gonna have to go. I think I'm gonna have to go Loch Gorm. I think I
Yeah,
like. I think the Sanaig's just got this slightly out of control profile to it. The
that's
Loch
probably why I
Gorm,
prefer it.
that's yeah. The Loch Gorm just seems a little bit more restrained.
Mhm.
All right, what about the port cask?
Well, it hasn't fallen apart. Like there's notes that just slightly remind me of our Amrit single cask.
I mean, it's so close to being that chocolate milk, but it's just not fatty,
Yeah,
sweet, or salty enough. I just
it
need
is.
more.
It's kind of there's something anemic about the whiskey after nosing it.
Like it's very good for a port cask.
Yeah,
I think it's just the flavors that are there. I want more of them. I want it to
yeah,
be
bigger.
a little bit bigger. All right, dare we pollute our palates?
I gotta see
Last one.
what's going on with this one.
Yeah, we'll dive in
It's
for
coming on the
science.
nose now. Yeah. It's corked wine and corked whiskey in the same way for me is once you know what's there, you can't untaste
Ah,
it and unknose it.
yeah, it's not. Yeah, it's not great anymore.
Mhm. It happens a hell of a lot more on wine, but it can happen on whiskey from time to time too.
Yeah, I would say that like two, maybe three tastings a year, we get a corked whiskey.
Yeah.
I mean, and occasionally they've been blatant enough that we've
Yeah.
caught it when we were pouring the kits. But I would say that, I mean, unless it's like super obvious, like we're not really checking them.
No.
Um, but yeah.
Well, and it's cork and like it's easier. Like I've had some one or two errands that have been corked. It's so much easier to notice that when it's not peated.
Yeah.
Peat just masks everything.
Well, the worst one we had was a bottle of, and I was warned by another store that it was really bad, and it was a
Was that a
signatory
signatory?
bottle.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I remember we opened it, and like the the room smelled for hours. Like it
yeah.
was
It was like cork juice. It wasn't even
yeah,
whiskey.
cork concentrate.
Yeah.
All right, uh, back to the
Hmm.
Sanaig one last time.
There is that like just a touch of a plasticky note coming through on that, but it's it's a fun dram. Like there's so much fruit and berries in there. There's a bit of a barbecue note as well. Um, I'm actually going to go with you though. I think I do prefer the Loch Gorm to the Sanaig.
Yeah. All right, well, it's time for everyone to tell us what they think. So let's fire up the poll, and we do have a cheeky third question. Um, so you're going to tell us your first and second favorite, and then you're going to answer Evan's cheeky third question. Which cast type was used to mature or at least finish your most favoritist ever Kilchoman bottle?
Yeah,
So good questions. So Evan, I mean, this is a tough one for me here. But have you been able to narrow down your three favorites?
it is tough. I'm going to go with the 100% Isla as my favorite.
Yeah.
Number two is a Kilchoman 13-year-old.
Okay.
Um, the Calvados cast tweak on that, I think, just worked really nicely, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And third, that's the toughest. I think I'm going to go Loch Gorm.
Okay. Evan, we are so close tonight. Uh,
I know.
this
I
is
tried to pick differently because I figured you'd pick some of those.
I mean, this rarely happens though. I guess we got a bingo. 100% Isla is hands down, I think, the most interesting whiskey in the lineup tonight. Really, really love it. The 13 year, uh, I think it's fun, and it's fun in all the right ways. There's no off notes to it. I think it's a unique expression of Kilholman. Having come around to it, I think it is identifiably in that Kilholman style, but a little different. And then this ought to make Jeff happy. I'm going to go Machir Bay for my
Cool.
third, um, because I think that showed really, really well. So those are my three picks for tonight. And if I gave an honorable mention, it would be to the port cask. Like
Yeah,
I had the least expectations for it, and I think I liked it better than both of the sherried ones. I
nice.
wanted it to be a little more expressive than it actually is.
Yeah, I think if you took that and like married it with a batch of Loch Gorm, I think you'd have a hell of a whiskey.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's check on the polls. We didn't have the largest turnout tonight, so our numbers are going to be somewhat skewed, but I'm going to end the poll here. All of you who had the ability to vote have voted. So top whiskey, let's share the results. Top whiskey tonight is the Sanaig Cask Strength. Evan, we've been voting
Wow.
the islands.
It's like you guys weren't even listening to us. It's severely disappointing.
13 year came in second. I do respect that. And then the 100% Island McCure Bay tied. What did you say for second favorite? You said 100% Isla by a landslide, with Loch Gorm and Sanaig coming in there too. So interesting results, but hey, everyone's entitled to their opinion. And then what cask type was used to mature your favorite uh Kilholman? And it's bourbon. Bourbon is the landslide winner there. I love mezcal, comma, mother F
Yeah.
hyphen
Yeah, I went for
exclamation point.
alliteration on that. And
Yeah.
Sammy was just saying there should have been a Calvados one, but it would have been dangerous territory.
Oh, and
Very
then
misogynistic.
what's
Yep.
the one they got in trouble for? The Casado cask? The
Yeah.
one that they got their wrist slapped for. So um well, you know what? We're gonna quickly we're gonna quickly go through the rest of the photos, just because Zoom rudely interrupted us there, or my laptop, one of the two, before we wrap. So there's the new view from the still room at Kilchoman when Evan and I were there in 2019. I don't think it's changed too much. Um, nice views looking over the north part of Islay. There's inside one of the mash tuns, the spirit safes, some casks in the warehouse, a single cask that we tried, and then some old casks around the warehouse. And there's one of the first, 2006. I think we had a chance to try that while we were there. And then, yeah, there's Evan and Anthony posing by the company Land Rover. That's probably about it. Oh, and then the selfie. Gotta have, that's a good one to end on. That's the ubiquitous selfie shot. You can tell I look a lot younger there.
Oh,
More
good
hair.
grief. Like the amount of gray hair in our beards versus both of our beards versus 5 years ago. It's insane.
It's the COVID aged me by a decade, I
Hmm.
think. The COVID years. Well, Evan, that was a fun tasting, a little faster than usual tonight, but I think we don't want to keep people here too long if there's nothing more to say.
Yeah. No, fun lineup. Too bad about that one corked whiskey, but it happens from time to time. The rest of the
We'll
lineup was fantastic.
we'll be sure to give the importer a hard time when I text him immediately after tonight's tasting.
That's right.
Um, Yeah, remember if you like that 13-year, there's there were six, there's five bottles still available. I know at least one has been ordered.
So what's
Um,
what's the rule on that? Is that email Andrew or email?
no, put your order in on the website. Even though it says sold out, just put it in on the website. First come, first serve. And there we go. Evan, Aaron, and Brandon saying thank you so much. We're both bourbon nerds, so it's been fun to explore the Scotch world a little bit more. Well,
Right on.
Aaron and Brandon,
Welcome
you're
to the dark
welcome.
side, Aaron and Brandon.
Nothing wrong with bourbon. We just can't talk
Yeah,
about that for a little while
yeah.
now, but
We'll get
hopefully
back
we
there.
will be able to again soon. Anyway,
Yeah,
Evan, thank you. Thank you everybody for taking part tonight. Thank you to our friends at Authentic and James Bourne who couldn't be here, who are always great partners. And if you like this, we'll be doing another Kilchoman tasting again sometime later in the fall. So until then, cheers everyone. Good night.
cheers.